Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson, here as always with Kay Johnson. And Kay, what have you been reading?
Nothing.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Just kidding.
Well, that's not true. As anyone who knows me knows, I'm always reading. But I read a Dean Koontz book.
Okay.
And I never read Dean Koontz.
I haven't read him, no.
Because he's sort of a horror.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm not into that. But this book popped up and it was free. Kindle Unlimited. And it's called The Bad Weather Friend.
Okay.
And there's this guy who's a nice guy. And no matter how bad things are, he always sees the best.
Okay.
And he's a real estate agent. And he's had some success and things are going in his, working for him. He's got a girlfriend who he thinks he's going to marry, so life's looking good. Well, in a matter of minutes, literally, he gets fired from his job. His girlfriend dumps him. And all of a sudden, this big box shows up at his house. And he isn't sure what it is and why did it come there. So he's got a friend who's a private eye, and he's like a big guy. And all he ever wants to do is eat. And there's a waitress at this restaurant they hang out at who's learning to be a private eye with this guy. And so they both come over to his house to look at this big box and figure out what's going on with this big box. And so it ends up that the box was a gift to him from a relative who knew he was going through a difficult time. And so this box contains the bad weather friend whose job it is to make life better for him. And so they have to chase down all sorts of people to figure out what's going on. It's actually really good. I mean, I have to say, it's for a Dean Koontz, it's a good book. If you like his stuff. And I typically am not that big of a fan, and so, but I like this book a lot. And it was kind of funny because it's not at all what, I mean, how great. You're having a bad day, and all of a sudden this big guy shows up who can influence things in a good way.
Well, that's good. Sounds like the start of a Hallmark movie almost.
Oh no!
Except in
no
a
Hallmark movie.
Except in a Hallmark movie, it would be like an elf showing up right before Christmas.
Yeah, this is no Hallmark movie. Trust me. This is more like Tales of the Dark Side.
The Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, but it's worth reading, and it was a nice, good read, and I can recommend it without feeling too guilty.
Okay, good.
So what have you been reading?
I finished Catherine Mack's new book called Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies.
Ooh.
So our main character is best-selling author Eleanor Dash. And Eleanor is an author, obviously, as she's a best-selling author. And she has written a series of books about, her main character's name is Connor Smith. And it's the 10-year anniversary of the series coming out. And it should be a very exciting time, except for the fact that she based the entire book on something real that happened. And Connor Smith is a real person. And she is now being blackmailed to write all these books by Connor and has to spend time with him all the time. And so they are currently in the Mediterranean, and they are on this tour, and somebody tries to kill Connor. And so she thinks somebody's after him. And so then a few days later, somebody tries to push her down the stairs. So they've decided somebody's trying to kill them. And so it is them on this tour with all these other people that have been involved. Like Connor's ex-wife is on it. Her ex-boyfriend is on the trip. Her sister is her personal assistant. And so they're on this trip. And all these things start happening that are just going wrong. And when she's writing the book, there are these footnotes throughout where she is commenting on her own book.
Oh, okay.
And so, really funny, her ongoing repertoire with herself and talking to you in the comments is really entertaining. I didn't really see the twist coming in at the end right away, which was good. There is a second book coming out in this series, and the second one is called No One Was Supposed to Die at This Wedding, is the name of the second book. And so she's going to be a guest at her best friend's wedding at Catalina Island. And
Is Connor with her?
I don't know who Connor is going to be, if it's with or not for this one, but one of her movies is being made one of her books is being made into a movie, and her best friend is an actress who's going to be in the movie. And so she goes to the wedding, and I'm guessing that hijinks will ensue. This book doesn't come out until May 13th of 2025, but I just like, the title is what caught me when I saw it. Every time I go on vacation, someone dies.
Well, there you go.
And so, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, again, short, quick read. But yeah, it's one of those that I just kind of giggled when I read it. Lots of different, and she doesn't know anything about this trip because her sister's the personal assistant, sends her everything. And she's always late, and she's talking about these different drinks she's drinking, and her sister's the one that's kind of keeping everything going. And yeah, just a different way to read it. It's been a while since I've read a book with where the footnotes are talking to what's going on in the show, but yeah, in the book. So yeah, it was enjoyable, and I will be interested in seeing what happens
in the
second one when it comes out, if I can remember to watch for it.
Well, I read a Lawrence Block book, which I haven't read Lawrence for a long time, and this one was A Burglar in the Library.
Okay.
And he's got a bunch of different characters, but the one there's a burglar series, and I can't think of the guy's name now. I want to say Benny, but I don't know if that's right. But he's runs a bookstore, but he's a thief, and the bookstore is really a cover because he's a professional thief, and he's really good at being a professional thief, and. So anyway, the book opens where he is quite enamored with a woman.
Okay.
And he likes her a lot, and he's telling her that he's booked a weekend away at this bed and breakfast. And she's sort of like, well, that's not going to work because I'm getting married on Thursday. And she said it's been fun, and she leaves him.
Oh, no.
So needless to say,
things are going smashingly.
Yeah, his heart is broken, and so he calls his friend Carolyn, and she's his best friend, but she's also gay. So there isn't any issue here.
Okay.
And he asks her to go up to the bed and breakfast with him. And so she says, okay, she will go. So the two of them go up there, and it's far. They have to take the train, and it's upstate New York, and it starts snowing. And they get to this place, and you park in the parking lot, and then you have to go across a suspension bridge to the house. There's already trouble. You can just tell.
Yeah, I would get there. I would see the suspension bridge, and I would say, I will see you after the weekend. And I would go back to where I came from.
So they go across the suspension bridge. They check in, and it's a big house, and it's a great place. And snows harder, and apparently most of the guests are already there who are coming for the weekend. But there's a couple that are late, and they're thinking they won't be there because of the snow. Well, lo and behold, they come dragging in, a couple hours later, and it's the girlfriend and her husband. And they changed their honeymoon plans because she thought it sounded like such a neat place, thinking
he was going to cancel?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
So needless to say, you've already got the setup here for all sorts of trouble. And, of course, just because she's married doesn't mean she can't still see her friend. So these two are sneaking around in the middle of the night, among other things that are going on in the middle of the night. And the whole reason he wanted to go to this place was because there's a first edition book he, of course, wants to
steal. Nice.
So he's hunting for the book, meanwhile, while other people are going bump in the night. So it's actually really good, and I enjoyed it. And there's quite a few of his books in that series of the burglar and stuff. And so they're readily available at the library, but they're fun. And I enjoyed it because all these things were happening, and you just couldn't quite. People were dying right and left, and snow is falling, and they can't get away. But they had enough food. This group.
Well, that's good. I'm glad they had
Yes.
enough food. Yes.
So what else have you read?
I started a new series. Richard Osman,
our yes.
our beloved Thursday Murder Club
Yes.
author, has started a new series called We Solve Murders.
Do I have your book, or do I have...
You have Jill's book.
Jill's book.
I still have mine.
I have it sitting there to save till I don't want to start it.
Oh, it is... I loved it. So the two main characters in this book are Steve Wheeler, who is a retired... he's like a retired detective. And so he lives in this small town, and he's got his habits down. You know, he goes and he goes to the pub for dinner. He plays pub quiz every week, and he has a cat named Trouble who only will eat chicken and roast chicken, will not eat cat food, has to have roast chicken. And his daughter-in-law is Amy Wheeler, who is a private security officer. And Amy's current job is protecting an author who, in her latest book, her main character, she based off of an actual Russian mobster who has now put a price on her head and wants her to be killed. So she's there doing that, and then lo and behold, a dead body shows up nearby of someone else that was also being protected by the same company. And it turns out that actually there are 3 other dead bodies who have all been clients of the private protection agency that Amy works for, and that Amy was nearby for the different murders, and somebody is coming after Amy. So Amy is funny, but the author, Rosie, hands down one of my favorite book characters ever. She is just a character, and she's so funny. There are so many little characters in this book that are only in bits and pieces, and they are all have great. They're great, and you just love them all. And well, the ones you can like. There's some you just don't like because they're bad guys. But so Amy's trying to figure out what's going on, and somebody tries to kill her. So she and Rosie are off on the run. You know, Rosie's private plane, fancy cars, friends in big places. So they're driving. They're going all over the world and all over the place with people trying to kill them. And of course, because she needs help, she wants Steve to come and help. And Steve doesn't want to leave his little British town and doesn't believe in world travel. And so she's dragging him along. And so he's like, well, I could do 2 days and I could be back in time for the pub quiz on Thursday. And it's all this stuff. And I just really enjoyed it. Great characters, another great world building. And I can't wait to see what else is going to come up with these different characters, because he set himself up for another great start.
So are you going to watch the TV series
of Thursday Murder Club? I don't currently have Netflix because my husband got mad at them for raising prices and that he could only watch it at our house and nowhere else he went with the whole location thing. So we don't have it. So I'm thinking once a few different things come out, we'll get it back for like a brief period and then binge watch a bunch of stuff. But it's on I'd like to watch it, but we'll see what happens. But I really did enjoy this. I think for branching out in a different direction, he's off to a great start.
Well, I have the book, and I have it sitting there, and I look at it all the time, and I think...
I know. This is why I'm not giving anything away, because I know you have it.
And I was going to read it right away, and I thought, no, I want to wait till I'm really...
Oh, I couldn't wait. I put literally everything else back on the bedstand, which I was looking at. I have multiple areas in my house where I have my to-be-read books. I have a bookcase that is just books that have been purchased at some point over the last probably 10 years that I've moved around and haven't gotten to yet. But that's my to-be-read bookshelf. And then I have in my bedroom, I have the stack next to the bed. And I realized today that the stack of books, I can't put anything else on top of it because it's sitting right even with the top of my bedside table lamp. That's how tall the one because it's got like my library books and then like anything I've purchased that's like at the top of my read list. And Tom's like, that's going to fall over someday. And I said, well, as long as it doesn't kill me, we'll just pick it up and put it back. And it's just, he's like, I don't get it. I don't get the piles. And I said, it's just like magic cards, Thomas, but mine are more fun, and I don't get upset by them generally. Though there are some books I have picked up and thrown across the room and then been done with. But so I read those, and then I read kind of just the real fluff romance series called the Maverick Billionaires series by Bella Anderson. And I've read 5 of them. There's actually like, I think 8 in this series because she's spinning off of the main set into some of the supporting characters. But so the 5 guys, that is the Maverick group, they're 5 guys from a bad neighborhood in Chicago that all were able to pull themselves out of various backgrounds. And they all were friends, and they all came together to live with one of the guys' parents. And they sort of raised them and took care of them and adopted them all as their family. And so they've made their own family with them. And so basically it's how each of the guys overcomes his background by meeting this amazing woman who does fantastic things in his life. And, they were great for a summer read because it's just, summer, early fall when things are getting busy, because the nice thing about romance books like this is they follow a very familiar pattern. Boy meets girl, boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back.
Yes, that's right.
Everybody's happy at the end.
Always.
Which sometimes after reading dark stuff, or you just need something where I know you're going to get mad at each other, and then you're going to come back and be happy, and we'll just move on. And that's what this was. But really good really good characters, and these are ones, again, you probably could read them standalone, but they all interweave in a lot of the characters. Well, because they're all close, all of the characters are connected. And so I read those quick. I picked them all up because they were all on the shelf at the library, and I had to grab books quick and get out before the 3-year-old was ready to go to dance.
Well, you got to move fast, Betsy.
You do. I get maybe 4 minutes out of our 15, 20-minute library time where I can look for what I want. Luckily, there's a shelf right in the front when you walk into the library in Cokato where they have all the new books they've gotten in. So I usually just go along there, and they have on the top shelf, they have what they called Lucky Day Reads. And so these are books that have recently come out and are popular, and you can check them out for 2 weeks. You get 2 books for 2 weeks, no renewals, and so they're all the new ones that came in. So I usually look at those, and I can take 2. And I got, I've seen it on a lot of social medias. It's called The God of the Woods. I've seen people talking about it, and I just started that today, but it's basically it takes place at a summer camp, and one of the campers goes missing, and the camper that goes missing, her parents are the owners of the camp, and her older brother went missing from the camp several years back.
Ooh.
And so it's right now it's building up to, it goes back and forth between when she got to the camp and when she's missing, and it's told in several different people's point of view. And so I'm not sure, I'm only like 3-4 chapters into it because I was reading it while I was waiting for Archie's speech. But so far it's good. I thought it was a really big book, and then I realized that I'd picked up the large print version, not complaining because I don't have to squint at the text. But yeah.
Definitely takes up more space.
Yes, but it is definitely, I'm not complaining. If I get tired of having my glasses on, I can read without them for once.
Yeah.
Which never happens. So what else have you been reading?
You would ask me.
Yes, I can keep going. I've got another one if you want me to.
Let me answer that. Another book that I'm reading is an author called George Bellars, and he's English, and he writes under different names, but his main character in the series I like is Inspector Littlejohn.
Okay. Inspector Littlejohn.
Yeah, and there's a wife, and there's
Is there a Robin Hood?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I can't remember what her name is. Carolyn, maybe. And but in one book, there's a dog, and he ends up taking the dog home. So now they have a dog, but he works for Scotland Yard, and they are brought in. His group is brought in anywhere in the country of England when there's a crime that the local folks can't solve. So he's always off somewhere, and he's got an assistant who thinks the world of him, and so they've got to figure things out. And Little John's very laid back, and but he goes to the island of Wight a lot, and he goes to the French Riviera. He's always going on vacation, and then somebody gets murdered, and then he's got to work. And stuff. And so there's I want to say 20-some books in the series. Okay. And so I just happen to be reading Outrage on Gallows Hill right now. And it was a fellow who, a bunch of guys meet at the pub, play darts, have a good time. They leave, and he gets murdered on the way home.
Okay.
And so Little John has to come and figure it out. And, of course, this idyllic village is far from it. Lots of stuff under the surface, and so
with all these crime mystery dramas like Midsummer Murders, you just don't want to go to the English countryside. It's almost better to just stay in London. Apparently.
Yeah, with Sherlock Holmes or the who was the fellow who murdered people?
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper.
So I was watching. I was looking for something to watch when I was working because I have it on in the background. And on Peacock, they have Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Oh, yes,
and I watched the first one of that, and that first one is the Jack the Ripper one.
I have all those on video or on CDs.
Oh, yeah?
I bought the whole series.
Yeah, it's nice to put on in the background for background noise, as long as the kids aren't creeping down the stairs to scare you.
Yeah, because that would be creepy for them.
Well, more creepy for me getting scared when my child pops through the door at me.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when you put noise-canceling headphones on, you can't hear anything.
Oh, yeah, right.
So they're just suddenly
there,
and it's rather terrifying. Yeah. It's the same thing when they come to you in the middle of the night and they're just looking at you when you're sleeping.
Yeah, I guess.
My last book I can talk about this time, Janice Hallett had a new book come out, and it's called The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels. So Janice, the way this book is laid out is it's not laid out as like a basic book. Her books that she writes are generally written as you're given a stack of papers with everything in it, like correspondence, emails, interviews, transcription stuff. And so like you open the book up and the cover says, you come to a safe deposit box and you're given these papers. When you're done reading them, you have two options. One, take everything you have in your hands to the police, or two, put it back in the safe deposit box and walk away. And so, that's a great way to start a book.
Yes.
Just out there. So the Alperton Angels were a cult who had brainwashed a girl into believing that her child was the Antichrist and they were going to sacrifice the baby. And then things went awry and all of the people involved, except for the guy leading the cult, committed mass suicide, and then he wound up in jail for the murders because he did some stuff after they died, which I'm not going to get into. And so the book, and then the two kids, their real names were never released that were involved, the teenager, the mom and dad, and the baby. Were never doing anything, and now where the book takes place, it is now 18 years. The baby is going to be turning 18. That was the baby that was going to be sacrificed. And so the main character, she and another guy are both, for different book companies, are both working on a book about the baby, and they're trying to find the baby and go through everything with the case. And so it's the book follows all their attempt at different interviews with people that were involved in the case, and all the twists and turns that come with it and things, and finding out what actually happened that night and what the actual story is, and if there was anything to what this cult believed was going on. So I really enjoyed it. She always has good red herrings and twists and turns. And one of the things I was early on, I was like, I bet, because how they started off with a few things, she's like, I bet this is going to happen. But it was interesting. And I do think and the whole way through the book is when you get done, you are left with a quandary of what you would do in this situation, because it's like a catch-22. If you go to the police, this happens, which leads to this, which could lead to this. If you put it all back, you're letting this and this and this happen, and people get away with X, Y, and Z. So it's interesting. I think it's a different way of looking at it, and it's kind of, the book makes you think a little bit, but not
too much.
Too much. I mean, I know what I would do. I would just put it all back and walk away. Because I wouldn't want to deal with half of these people in this book, because some people are not very nice. But yeah, I always like her books. I think I really enjoy the books that there's more and more of them coming out where it's more of a found, like they have the movies where they're found footage movies, like the Blair Witch Project. So you can't really call it a found film, but it's like a found evidence thing or whatever, and it's kind of fun to sift through and kind of use it to figure out, and then as things come through you can figure out how they all weave together. And I'm a real puzzle person. I like puzzles.
And you're good at it.
And so I enjoy those. I'm actually picked up a book the other day called The Fellowship of Puzzle Makers, which I'm interested to see what that happens with. So that'll be on a future episode. And unfortunately, we are at the end of our time. So we will see you on our next episode. Reach out on Facebook or our email, offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.